7 Memphis police officers and 3 fire department employees have now been relieved of their duty for their involvement in the January 7th traffic stop and beating that led to Tyre Nichols' death. Of those 7 suspended officers, 5 were charged with second-degree murder last week. Last night, the Memphis Police Department put out a statement confirming that a 6th officer, President Hemphill, and a 7th unnamed officer were also taken off the street at the same time. Now, the statement also noted that the investigation is ongoing and the next phase of personnel actions should be taken in the coming days. Memphis residents gathered to hold another vigil last night. And across the country in Sacramento, people gathered at the skate park that Nichols, an avid skater, frequented when he was growing up. Nichols' funeral is scheduled for tomorrow, and as Mike Memley reported at the top of the show, the White House announced this afternoon that the vice president will attend. NBC's Antonia Hylton has the latest from Memphis. I'm also joined by Paul Butler, an NBC News legal analyst and law professor at Georgetown University. Thanks so much to both of you for being here. So, Antonia, bring us up to speed here. What do we know about the latest officers and fire department officials who were relieved of their duty?
Well, Kristen, one officer, their identity still has not been released yet, but the other officer, President Hemphill, has been relieved of duty. And anyone who has watched the video or the videos of the beating of Tyre Nichols will recognize Officer Hemphill from video 1. This is the video in which you can see from a white officer's point of view. You can see the officer pointing a taser at Tyre, and then later you can hear Officer Hemphill recommending that his colleagues chase him down and stomp Tyre Nichols. And so for days now, even before his name had become public and confirmed, residents, activists here had been asking for him to not just be held accountable, not just to lose his job, but to face charges. And as you mentioned, the DA has left the door open to the possibility of additional charges to the 5 officers who are already facing very severe criminal charges, but also to other people involved, including these other officers on the scene, and then potentially EMTs or other employees involved in the police report that night. Those 3 members of the fire department that you mentioned, too, 2 of them are EMTs who you can see in the video at points taking a very long, agonizingly long time to actually render any kind of medical aid to Tyre Nichols. And the 3rd is a lieutenant. And as I've spoken to community members here, it's this kind of new information, this kind of new action that they've been looking for. And so while they're heartened by all of this, they say that it's also added to a sense, a sort of gnawing sense for them that there's more here, that there may be additional people who knew what was happening to Tyre Nichols that night, additional information about how that stop even began in the first place, since we at no point in the video records see any crime committed by Tyre Nichols. They feel like this is still just the beginning, and they want other employees, other people who may have been involved that night to be charged, Kristen.
And Antonia, before I let you go, the funeral is going to be tomorrow. As we just said, the vice president will be there. Obviously, the community bracing for a very devastating day. What are you expecting from tomorrow?
It's going to be heavy. I can tell you the church behind me here, where it will be hosted, the Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, expects that this place, this parking lot, this entire area is going to be absolutely overflowing with people from the community and even people from outside of the community coming here to celebrate Tyre Nichols' life. That includes not just Vice President Harris, but also the families of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, who are traveling here to Memphis to grieve alongside Tyre Nichols' parents. And our own colleague, Al Sharpton, is going to give the eulogy, and then the senior pastor of this church, Jason Turner, who I've actually spent a lot of time with over the last several days, is going to lead and officiate the entire process. What I can tell you to expect to hear is a connection between faith and protest, which is something that you hear often in Black churches across this country. But the pastor here is very certain that his message is going to really connect Tyre's life and a celebration of that with a call for action and a call to reform, Kristen.
Antonia Hylton, thank you so much for all of your fantastic reporting throughout this just tragic ordeal. We really appreciate it. Paul, let me go to you now, and let's just pick up where Antonia started, which was these officers who were relieved. We know Preston Hemphill, as she laid out, one of the first officers to encounter Tyre Nichols. What do you anticipate happening with them? They've been relieved of their duty, but they haven't been charged yet.
Not yet. We know that the prosecutor was focused on the second encounter that the police had with Mr. Nichols, where they especially viciously beat him. But remember that first encounter, We don't know why Mr. Nichols was stopped. The police chief said she doesn't see any evidence that he committed a crime, but the officers proceed to yank him out of the car. They cursed at him, and they put a stun gun in his face. Now, that's not legal unless the officers have probable cause to arrest and reason to use that kind of force. Since there's no evidence that they had that legal evidence, I think that any charge from negligent homicide to aiding and abetting is on the table for some of these other officers who haven't yet been charged.
And you've heard some frustration expressed by some community members, the fact that the black police officers were charged so quickly. And of course, before the video was released, here you have an officer who is Caucasian. And of course, we don't know the identity of the other officer, the seventh officer, but who has not yet been charged. What do you make of that, and how might that impact the community at a moment like this when emotions and tensions are already running so high?
So we know that black people are treated differently than white people in every stage of the criminal legal process. So it's not weird to think that these black officers would be charged when a white officer wasn't charged yet. That's just an artifact of our criminal legal system. And I think it's in part why so many people have been especially upset that these officers were African American, the first 5 who were charged, because if they weren't wearing their badges and uniforms on that night as young black men, they could have met the same fate as Mr. Nichols.
Do you expect that they will face more charges, more serious charges than they're already facing, the 5 police officers who've already been charged?
So they've been charged with second-degree murder. The only more serious charge would be first-degree murder, which requires evidence of premeditation. And I don't think that the prosecution has that evidence. So I think that these are very serious charges. I think that the prosecution with the second-degree charge might be open to a plea bargain, which is the way that most criminal prosecutions are resolved, with the defendant saying that he's guilty in exchange for what he hopes will be a lower sentence. So I think the issue will be how much time the prosecutor is willing to give up to allow a sure conviction, which is why prosecutors enter into plea bargains, and also what the community would accept. Would it be okay with a resolution with these officers pleading guilty to manslaughter? Would the community be okay with these officers agreeing to a resolution that doesn't include prison time? I think those are all open questions.
And Paul, can I just end by getting your thoughts on police reform? This is not a new conversation. We know that the Memphis Police Department has disbanded the Scorpion unit. We know that other police departments all across the country are looking at taking similar actions. There's now a conversation in Washington again about what can be done at the federal level. But why is the country failing to address this?
You know, was it Fannie Lou Hamer, the Mississippi activist during the 1960s, who said that she was sick and tired of being sick and tired? I think that's where a lot of us are now. President Biden called this case a test of whether we're the country we say we are. At this moment, we're the country where an American citizen guilty of no more than a traffic violation was tortured and killed on public streets by agents of the government. So I think the problem is way bigger than bad apple cops, and it's too big to be resolved by reform. We have to think very ambitiously, very innovatively about how we use our American ingenuity, our black genius, our Hispanic excellence to transform public safety into a system that all citizens can have confidence in.
Paul, thank you so much. We will leave it there. We really appreciate your thoughts and insights. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.